The Property Lane.
Welcome to the Property Lane Show. We continue to talk about the green building and to understand the aspects of green building in relation to what we know locally. On the set tonight, we have someone from the Uganda Society of Architects, we have someone from the solar energy, and the developers doing the green buildings themselves. So without wasting more time, welcome with me on the set, Mr. Brian Onen-Chan from Easy Housing. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Kathy. Like Kathy said, my name is Brian Onen-Chan. I work at Easy Housing as a project manager.
Thank you, Brian. And next, we have Mr. Samuel from Sawa Energy, with the other name that it's hard for me to pronounce. Samuel, please introduce yourself.
Thanks, Catherine, for having me on the show. My name is Samuel Kaufman. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Sawa Energy. We are a renewable energy financier and developer, enabling East African businesses and Ugandan businesses to save money using solar without having to deploy any capital upfront.
I like the save money bit. We shall come back to that. Of course, in the building, we cannot talk green buildings, green technology, and not have the designers in the house. And ladies and gentlemen, we have the president of the Uganda Society of Architects, Architect Emmanuel Sinabulia. Please tell us about yourself.
I'm Sinabulia Emmanuel, an architect. I'm the president of the Uganda Society of Architects. I'm also into practice and academia. In practice, I run a practice by the names of Studio One Design Group that is majorly going into landscape design, heritage and conservation, and mainstream real estate. In academia, I'm a lecturer at the university, and my core disciplines are energy efficiency, design fundamentals, and we shall share more as we go on. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to start with Architect Sinabulia. You talked about energy efficiency and design. What are the key aspects of green building, the key features of green building?
We need to appreciate that locally in Uganda, this seems to be a new phenomenon, although we've been practicing it without knowing that it was being green. So one needs to first of all understand what green applies to with regards to our locality and what it applies to internationally. Now, many of the times people think to green is to the color or to green is to plants. And yet there are very many components that we can embrace to achieve a green solution. And this goes from way of life, it goes from the economics, it goes, and that includes financing, it goes from technique, and that includes skill sets, and also it goes to projections. Because many times when we think of green, we think of an afterthought auxiliary solution. And yet you can start off from the word go with the idea of having a solution that is green. So we shall share more with that, with regards to that. But in a nutshell, going green is how or what effort you put into making sure whatever you're doing reduces on the carbon emissions and also helps improve on a better living.
You talk of carbon emissions. There is the net zero campaign. Could you just delve more into that?
World over, there are many agencies and pioneers in trying to go green. And the main reason that is drawing the attention to this and making it a buzzword is we're now starting to see calamities and problems that are coming from not going green in our faces. And it's made us more aware of the need to protect the environment, but also to go back and reflect on what we used to have and what we're losing. So when we talk of going net zero, we are trying to see to what extent can we reduce the carbon emissions, to what extent can we reduce the impact to the world that we're in, so that the world can reclaim itself, so that the world can manage itself. And some of the examples that we have that get us more aware of the need for going net zero is when you see the map of the world and you see the green footprint of the forests, it's alarming. When you get the map of the world and you see the traffic of air traffic, and you see the carbon emissions on the different routes that are the busy routes, that are the backbone of the operation of the world economics, it's alarming. When you go to the shorelines of the biggest waterfronts and beachfronts, and you see the pollution, the plastics, it's alarming. So it goes to different scales, but we can tackle it as the world globally, but also we can tackle it individually. We shall discuss that more if time allows.
Thank you so much, Architect Emmanuel. Now back to Samuel, Sawa Energy. What is clean energy?
What is clean energy? That's a great question. I think it's kind of straightforward, right? It's how can we use energy or power our demand of production, our houses, our businesses, our cars in a way that we do not create a negative impact to the environment. We have natural resources that are, some of them are cleaner than others by their extractions, by their amount of resource that are available. And when we're talking about clean energy, we're talking about resources that have a minimum impact, close to no impact on the environment. And there's ways we can harvest that energy, and there's way we can use that clean energy in order to create productions, to have them productive use of that energy.
Thank you so much. And back to Brian. Last time we had an interesting discussion with Corey from Easy Housing, and they were telling us how you're using timber. Are you also using solar for those houses you're building?
Our houses make use of solar energy.
They make use of solar. We wanted to know numbers, you talked of constructing studios, 2 bedrooms, 1 bedroom. We wanted to delve deeper into numbers because I'm sure there are viewers who want to use your technology or even have you build them those houses. But could you give us some numbers? Like how much would it cost for a studio apartment? So that we compare it with the people using brick and cement and see the difference.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah.
Our studio units start from $9,500 onwards. This depends on the design the client desires, the location of the site, and other things to do with our finishes. That dictates the price of our units. Then when it comes to a 2-bedroom home, we start from $12,000 onwards. And for a 3-bedroom, we start from $15,000 onwards. So that is also still dependent on the factors I mentioned.
Wow. Take us through, when you talk of finishes, in my layman's language, I'm thinking if my house is built of timber, I don't need to use paint, I don't need to use so much, these other expensive finishes. I would think the timber will do. What do you mean of finishes? What are we looking at?
When it comes to finishes, for the facade, the timber members are vanished. So it saves you from painting a number of layers. Then when it comes to the interior, we use bio-based paints. So these are paints that don't have an adverse effect on the occupants of the house. And these are finishes that a client can also do by themselves, because these are do-it-by-yourself projects.
Can I come with my own designs? Can I go to Architect Emma and come with my own designs, or you have that technology can only accommodate certain designs? Can I customize my house? Well,
in regard to the design, we have a design team at Easy Housing, but we also work in partnership with local architects, for example, in Uganda, to help us, for example, with tailoring our building concept to the local needs of our clients in Uganda. And also, the architects also help us with the approval process, because timber construction is a new technology in Uganda.
All right, Brian, you talked about finishes. I would like to imagine a timber house is in itself good finishing. What finishes are you talking about? Does it involve paint? Are we having colored wood? You know, stuff like that.
Our finishes are basically the painting, then also varnishing. Then when it comes to the extensive interior design, we also partner with our local interior designers, basing on the client's budget.
Thank you so much. Yes, back to architect Emma. Tell us, do we have some green buildings in Uganda, in Kampala? Like, give us some examples.
That's a very good question you've placed. First of all, we need to acknowledge that I think the oldest building we have in Uganda is not dating more than 200 years in Uganda. However, in other countries, we have buildings that are dating back 1,000 years, 3,000 years. So we need to appreciate the concept of green with regards to our context and locality. And as you may be aware or not be aware, when you're certifying a building to be green, there are very many parameters you look at. Now, I was fortunate that our firm, Studio One Design Group, was part of the development of the Arena Mall. And we got certification, green certification from South Africa with the landscape part. But I must say it wasn't an easy way or an easy thing to sell to the developers, in the sense that, as you may be aware, that some of the initiatives that go green are more expensive than the ordinary approaches. Now, I would like to go back to the question you've asked, that do we have any green buildings in Uganda? Now, if we're going to have 100% green building, we don't have any. But if we're going to pick, do we have aspects of green in any building in Uganda? We have lots of them. I'll start with the Bank of Uganda. If you follow the initial design that was done and the concepts behind the passive cooling of the building, the harvesting of the rainwater from the roof surface, the pockets of waste management, those were green initiatives. If you to take it back to the life cycle of how much has been saved over the time, from the time it was inaugurated in the 1970s, versus the energy consumption of similar buildings that were opened up in the same time, you see the numbers.
Most of the buildings we have may not be 100% green, but there are aspects of the green building in it. Just to take us through again, what could that be? Is it the lighting, the water harvesting? I'm seeing many buildings downtown when we talk about lighting. They have electricity on, the lights are on the whole day. Like they are on and you still can't see. You walk through those buildings and you literally need a torch. Is that what we are trying to advocate for? Does green building also talk about the lighting aspect? As
we started off with the property land show today, we mentioned that there are different levels of achieving green on a project, in this case a building, but the best approach is to start from inception. And some of the issues that we look at is not only the regulation and planning guidelines, but also what is feasible in that locality or context. Now, Catherine asked a question of what are those different approaches that can allow us to see green in a building. Now, to start off, we are all alarmed when we see the big floods that we're having. But then we never take time to ask ourselves how much of the water that falls on our plot is harvested. By harvesting, I mean collected and maybe reused. Most of the times, as we're doing our projects, we make sure we have channels that allow for stormwater runoff into the drains or into the streets. Imagine what saving would do if the irrigation or the watering of our gardens, our plants, is from water that is coming from the rain season. Imagine if instead of having lighting during the day, we have passive ventilation, passive aeration, so that during the day, as much as possible, you don't require to switch on the light. Imagine if right now it's becoming a principle that many people are adopting of having energy efficient stoves. And people know that if I'm to cook my beans, which is some of the things that take long to cook, on an eco stove, if I've been using a sack of charcoal in a month, that sack will now last 3 months. Now, when someone does the math, it clicks to them that that's a saving. If we're to go to the water that we use in our toilets, right now we have smart toilets which have 2 flush options. One flush is for when you're taking a short call, the other flush is for a long call. And the amount of water that is flushed down the drain every time we flush, some of them are 10 liters. But if you have one that is flushing 4 liters, that's a save. So what I'm trying to say is we have different components, but first of all, we need to change our mindsets to understand that going green doesn't have to be a whole complete package. There are small bits that we can tackle to achieve green.
Thank you so much for that. We will be coming back with more on the green building. We take a commercial break for now. Welcome back from the break. Yes, we are here on the property lane. It's all about real estate. And we are still talking green building today. We had an interesting discussion from architects about the aspects of the green building. You talked about the flashing toilet. I've seen a toilet that has a sink on it. I don't know if that's also part of the sustainability and the green aspect. Ugandans are people that don't take new things easily. And now you want to throw away the bricks, the cements. We are bringing in these wall panels of wood. How have Ugandans received that?
Well, Ugandans have liked our building concept. It's a fast construction, and most of the questions that are asked by our client, isn't our building concept contributing to deforestation? Well, we source our timber from sustainable forestry companies. So we actually contribute to sustainable forestry in the country by using sustainable timber. And this is timber that is internationally certified. And our building concept also allows for relocation of the homes. So if, for example, Kathy, you built a home in, let's say, Kampala, and maybe you're relocating to Gulu, you can disassemble the house and move it. Even the foundation is movable. Then another interesting bit about our building concept is that we source our labor also locally. So if you are building in Gulu, we don't have to move carpenters from Kampala to Gulu. So we find carpenters in Gulu, we train them during the construction of the easy homes. And other questions clients ask are in relation to fire and termites. Well, our timber is treated to resist termites. And the way the houses are engineered, they are fire-resistant houses. The walls are well engineered, and we also use gypsum, which is fireproof. And the timber facade is also varnished. So when it's varnished, it also makes the timber fireproof.
Before I come to solar energy, yes, architect Emma, the structural integrity of such a house. Give us the comfort. How do we trust? I think part of the reason we build with cement and brick, we look at it and it looks strong. Are such buildings structurally sustainable?
As the saying goes that if something is not broken, don't try to fix it. But we need to appreciate that something that is not broken has gone through tests and it has been tried and tested over a period of time. Now, to bring this to context, the concept of prefabs, of factory-made products and assembled on ground, is actually not new. If you look at the Bugolobi flats, they were prefabs. If you look at parts of Crystal Towers, prefabs. If you look at the airport, prefabs. We have also some buildings just behind Cairo Bank on Wilson Road, prefabs. However, somehow this died out and it's just coming back. And yes, our friends with Easy Homes are going the timber approach to it, but they're also Hydroform who are going the brick side of it. We also have earth stabilized walls. We also have other like straw materials and other initiatives. So there are very many approaches that different creative minds are taking in this approach.
Yes, solar energy. Tell us. Once again, you said your customers are hospitals, factories, schools, heavy consumers, people taking, like, in terms of power, how much energy are we talking about per project?
You've highlighted the specific words, right? It's heavy consumers of electricity. So you said hospitals, universities, data centers, telecommunication companies, commercial real estate. All of those clients are great potential clients for solar. What is important is that they consume the energy during the day when the sun is shining, right? Because in order to be able to provide an affordable system to our clients, we need to make sure that we don't have a very expensive system. So we don't include storage. And in order to have a system working for our clients and productive, the energy that is consumed from the system needs to be consumed at the same time that the sun is producing, right? So big energy consumer that consume electricity during the day.
Is it like in terms of kilowatt hours? What are we talking about?
I think if I give you kilowatt hours, nobody will really realize, how much kilowatt hours I'm spending. But if I talk to you about shillings, an operator will know how much shillings I'm spending on electricity, because for most of the operators and the owners, electricity is, I would say, the second most expensive items on their P&L after the raw material. And when we're talking about shillings, we're talking about clients that spend 15, 20 millions of shillings per month on their UMEME bills. And that's not considering the diesel that might be in addition to that. There's no time that our clients will be off power. Because if there's no sun, the grid is the backup. And if there's no grid, because we have a blackout, then the generator is the backup. And most, if it's not 95% of the businesses in Uganda have a generator backup, right?
Yeah, before we conclude on the solar, we've seen when the solar energy came in, the concept, when it came in, many Ugandans rushed and got the solar panels, but I've had several complaints of what happens when the solar panel stops working. The maintenance issue has been an issue for many Ugandans using solar. Do you have a solution for that?
Yeah, so I think it's a great, you very pinpoint one of the problem of deploying solar. And I think we've seen the biggest deployment of solar for residential houses, right? There's a lot of businesses that came in, sold solar system for residential projects, and then they've installed the system, and then they say, job is finished, you take care of it, and you call me if I have a problem, right? At Sawa Energy, we do things a bit differently. We take care of the investment, the construction, and the operation and maintenance of the system through the long-term contract. We say it's a headache-free solution for our clients, but what does that really mean is that our clients doesn't need to think about the solar system at all through their flow of operation. And why that is because we monitor our systems remotely. We get signals if there's a problem on our system, and then we dispatch our own O&M team, operation and maintenance team, in order to maintain and make sure that our system are as productive as possible. And why do we care about that, right? If you just pay me a monthly fee, flat fee, for maintaining the system, I'm not really incentivized in going and fixing it as soon as possible. But because as I told you, our clients are paying based on the performance of the system. So
it is a metered system. Oh.
So if the system is not performing, my clients are not saving and I'm not making money, our business are not getting revenue. So we need to make sure that the system is as performant as possible, and in order to do that, we take care of operation and maintenance through the duration of the contract.
Quite interesting. As we conclude the green building topic, it's an interesting topic that cannot be exhausted. But like one of us said, it starts with the education system, the curriculum we are having to embed some of these aspects. That's how we shall go green, even in real estate. Thank you. And it's been a great pleasure having you on this property lane. I would also like to thank Rosewood Furniture for hosting us If you want the best interior decor, this is the place to come to. From Catherine Nanteza and the whole team, ciao.